I'm Ed Adams, and you're listening to the AFCA Podcast. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to this very special episode of the AFCA Podcast. Now, we're celebrating Pride with a conversation about Black queer love with Master of Nuns Lena Waithe and Naomi Ackie. And we'll get into the thick of it after the break. The AFCA Podcast is sponsored by Morgan Stanley Global Sports and Entertainment.
Okay. Hypothetical for you.
Okay.
Let's say we're at a party. Maxwell's playing.
Love him.
You don't know me. I don't know you. And I ask you out on a date. Would you say yes?
That question you just heard was from the trailer promoting Season 3 of Netflix original series Master of None. This beautifully crafted scene is just a sample of the emotional roller coaster this award-winning comedy takes as love, life, and the pursuit of happiness is explored through the eyes of Denise, played by Lena Waithe, and her wife, Alicia, portrayed by Naomi Ackie. The 5-episode season, titled Moments in Love, is an expression of black-on-black queer love with an unexpected gravitas around what happens when same-sex loving couples want to conceive, including a very frank look into the challenges of in vitro fertilization, or IVF. The series bears it all in its typical smart and witty fashion thanks to the brilliant writing of Waithe and Aziz Ansari. Now, Lena Waithe has been a regular for all 3 seasons and has made history as the first African-American woman to win for comedy writing for co-writing the Season 2 Thanksgiving episode with Ansari. Now, in 2018, Time magazine named her one of its most influential people, and it's easy to see why. Lena champions Black stories, and in a broader sense, inclusion by promoting representation of Black and queer talents in Hollywood with film and television projects she produces, like Boomerang, The Chi, 20s, and Them, and also the award-winning films Queen and Slim and The 40-Year-Old Version. Naomi Ackie is a young powerhouse of an actress who got her start on the long-running series Doctor Who and has worked on several film and television projects, including Lady Macbeth, where she won a British Independent Film Award for Most Promising Newcomer in 2016. She's worked on Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker in 2018 and The End of the Effin' World in 2019, which she won a BAFTA TV Award for Best Supporting Actress for her role as Bonnie in the series. Now, I had a chance to speak with both Lena and Naomi via Zoom about the new season of Master of None, the importance of telling Black queer stories, and how the 2 actors captured, as the season title suggests, those moments in love. First off, thank you for being a part of the AFCA Podcast. I really appreciate this.
Of course. Pleasure.
And congratulations on an amazing 3rd season. First off, wow. I'm such a big fan of the show anyway. But when I got the episodes, I was expecting the show to kind of take a leap, as it does every season. But it took a completely different tone this year. I mean, can you talk to me about why you decided to go in such a new direction?
Well, Aziz and I, it's interesting because Aziz said something very true, which is we have no desire to come back unless we have something to say. I think that's how I feel as an artist. I think that's how Aziz feels as an artist. And I think the show is something that is very precious to us and very special. And that's why I think we waited so long, because we don't want to come back unless we really can come back in a real way. And I think what happened over the course of those 4 years that we've been gone is Aziz has grown up a lot. I've grown up a lot. We've lived a lot, and we're different people than we were when you all first met us those years ago. We feel like kids, and now we're adults and we're dealing with adult things. As they say, you put away childish things. I think that's sort of what's happening in this season, and that my character Denise is now married, living in upstate New York. She's put out a book that's done really well for her, and she's she's not doing too great about keeping up with her friends, as sometimes people tend to do when they get married and move a little bit further away. And also too, she feels a pressure for her on her career to be great and to be amazing. But her partner is ready to settle down and have a family. And so there's sort of that tug of war that's happening that I think a lot of people can relate to. And then they also get into the fertility of it all, which I personally haven't gone through that at this point in my life yet. But Aziz and I did research and talked to doctors and talked to women who have gone through that, and talked to queer couples. And what we were really educated about is just the lack of inclusivity when it comes to hospitals and IVF and the questions that are asked. And so that was also an opportunity for us to educate our audience as well about something that I'm sure they probably haven't done too much digging, unless it's something they've actually been through. So it's just really important for us to also show, queer Black love as imperfect, as human. And I think there's this desire, whether it be from the Black community or the queer community, because there's such a little representation, that when we do see ourselves, that we be immaculate. And that to me does us a disservice. I think it's important that when we show ourselves as full-fledged human beings. So that means we're going to fall down, we're going to mess up, we're not going to always get things right, and we're not going to always be the hero of our own story. And that's why it's also important for me to be a bit of a villain, to not always be likable all the time, because that's important to me, to show a queer Black character, really just be a human being. And I think that's what we really want to show this season.
Okay. All right. So Naomi, I'm gonna just say, like, you were given like textbook Black girl magic, like all time.
That's
right. So talk to me about Alicia and how you interpreted her to be what we saw on screen.
I think a lot of the process, and I mean, this is usually my process whenever I'm taking on a project, but it happens in the weeks, the few weeks before, when you get to talk with the other actors, writers like Lena and Aziz, and you start to kind of figure out kind of on the day, like winging it slightly, like, what does this mean? Like, it's kind of, it feels like an instinct thing. And what's amazing is that I think Lena and Aziz's creative energy is really catching. And I was instantly able to figure out the tone. It's not always that easy to figure out what the tone is of this, but by listening to Lena and Aziz, I was like, okay, this is what is going to best serve that story. For Alicia, she's a very dedicated wife. She wants to settle down, she wants kids, but there's a part of her that is tentative and sensitive about the subject with Denise, because Denise is riding high and she doesn't want to get in the way of that, but she doesn't know who she is. And so I think, it's a testament to the writing and the energy on set that came across. Thank you for saying that.
No. I mean, let me piggyback on that, actually, because intimacy is such a big part of this season. Can you both kind of talk about the discussions you two had prior to shooting to kind of create the chemistry that about what your marriage was that we got to see on screen between Denise and Alicia?
It's kind of like, I feel like we had like we were voice messaging from before.
Yeah, we were trying to just send each other voice notes, obviously, before filming. Obviously we weren't in the same country, and so we were trying to just catch a vibe before we got to set. So we were sending voice notes.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, really nice and helpful. But also, then we also had an intimacy coordinator on set who was amazing. And she actually worked on I May Destroy You as well. So she was really helpful, and for us to make sure we always felt comfortable in terms, because it is very intimate and it is very close, and we are very, we're acting like a married couple. And and so, but also too, for us, it was super important not just to show the physical intimacy, even though that was there as well, but we also we really wanted it to feel like a lived-in relationship. We wanted some intimate moments to be very casual and very natural. And I think that's why it feels so potent when you watch the episodes, because we feel like two women who are married and living in this house, and they're arguing and or sometimes they're dancing and being silly and having fun. But I think that's what a real relationship feels like. It's not always a love-making scene, laughing and this and that. It's like sometimes there's just moments where we can be in a room and could not be further apart from each other, which I think was also really important to the story.
Okay.
I think also there's that thing of like, as like actors, I mean, there's been more like there's situations where I've gone on a set and like had to act like I'm with someone and I've just met them that day.
Right,
And
of course.
luckily, like, yeah, but like luckily I think as well, we had like a pre kind of working situation where we were talking through the scripts and stuff. And I think by the time we got on set, I was just really comfortable with Lena, with Aziz, with us expressing how we felt on any given day. And that I felt like that was really nice actually on set, that we were able to share, just even offset and be like, oof, I'm not feeling it today. Yeah. Okay, no, this is a good day. You got this, babe. You can do like that, that kind of energy, just absolutely naturally.
Yeah, and I think that sort of came into the frame as well, you know, us, that sort of camaraderie that you have as two just Black women being on set and you know, going through that. But for us, we really, I think it just sort of, it comes through on the screen.
Okay, taking notes. Bae, I got you. That's what I saw. That's what I heard. All right, so Lena, I'm just gonna say, as a writer, I feel personally that you made history. I don't think I've ever seen in a show a double busted moment. Cause that what? I was trying to be mad at you. I'm like, I gotta make statements at both of y'all. That was really interesting. It was really interesting. And so it kind of dovetails into a conversation I really wanted to have with you, because this was shot during the pandemic. And I know that, not knowing fully how you intended the season to go, but you had to make a lot of adjustments because of the protocols and how you mapped out the episodes. And I kind of wanted to know, I don't know if this is a chicken or the egg kind of conversation, but as dealing with this pandemic and being with the confines that you had to create and do your art, I just wanted to know, like, how was it for you to like stage the characters to hit those kind of points to get your themes across? But also, how did you adjust your writing for that to happen?
You know, funny enough, we did not have to adjust the writing because Aziz and I wrote it this way. We wrote it a couple of years ago, and obviously not foreseeing the world that we would be in. But we unknowingly wrote a COVID-friendly series of scripts. Wow. And that's why because the day I was supposed to get on a plane to go to shoot, originally to shoot, they said, you can't get on a plane because they don't want to be liable if something happens. This thing is really taking off. So we didn't, but by the time we were cleared to shoot, we said we don't really have to change anything because it's two people in the house. And then sometimes two more people come to the house. But that was it. Like, it was, it was, or one person comes over. It was not a bunch of people in the space. And so, and then also too, what you're talking about in terms of those moments of just turmoil in this relationship, being confined actually made it more interesting because there's nowhere to run. There's nowhere to go. The camera's not, we're not yelling cut. We're not going in for a close-up. This is the scene. This is the moment. This is life. And I think that's why it was so important for me just to always be honest in those scenes. Yes, I know I've written it and I worked on it with Aziz and worked on it with Naomi in rehearsals. But I think for me, it was always about honesty, always the truth. I think that never steers me wrong. And whether it be on the page or in performance. And I think that's why I think we were able to land in such a really special place. And also, we haven't really seen this with two women of color, and for this sustained amount of time. So is it going to be new? Is it going to be different? Are people going to maybe squirm a bit? Are there going to be some people that are going to celebrate and rejoice? Sure. But I love that, we're going to kind of hit people like a like a rocket in a way, but also open a door and do something that hasn't been done before, which is always fun.
I can honestly say, in all the 3 seasons I've now seen, excuse me, I've never talked back to the television as much as I did this season. Yes! I pulled out all my black cards on you. I was like, girl, no, I was
shut your goddamn mouth
at y'all this time. I was at the TV. But I did want to talk about that because you just, you mentioned earlier about doing your research, doing your homework to kind of create all of these moments. And, Aziz directed all these episodes.
Yeah.
And I wanted to talk to me about that collaboration over the 3 seasons now, and what it was like to partner with him to tell this type of story that focuses on Black love, especially between women.
Yeah. Look, I mean, he's like my brother, you know, in life and work and in art. And we bicker like siblings, you know, we fuss and fight sometimes. But I think what was kind of cool in this moment was that even though he was in the driver's seat for a lot of it, there were also times he would get out and let me drive. And that's also kind of how we work, you know, especially even with the Thanksgiving episode, we co-wrote that, but the coming out scene, he left the room. You know, he was like, you gotta do that by yourself. And there's some other scenes like that in this season as well, that he kind of said, all right, I'm gonna let you drive on this one. But then also too, I had to trust him that when it came time to film it, he stepped up and was like, all right, I was gonna capture this and make sure we do it in a way that feels honest and respectful. And obviously Naomi was such a wonderful partner and you know, just, you know, sparring partner in a lot of these scenes too. And so it was just important that we got it right. And so that's why there are certain things that obviously, like I said, that have not gone through, that we speak to people who have and ask them how they were feeling and what that was like, and just getting the language correct and talking to doctors and things like that. And then us obviously translating it on the page and then doing another pass where it kind of feels, okay, how do we make this conversational? How do we keep the story moving forward? And that's really what we wanted to do. And I think we were, you know, hopefully successful in that. But for us, it was always about looking at each other and pushing each other to be better and to be the best we can be. And I think that's what I always love when I get back in the ring with Aziz, is that we were taking swings at each other, but it's to make the other a better fighter. And I think that's what makes the season so special.
Okay. And Naomi, what about yourself?
I think for me coming in, it was quite a transformative time for me, because I think I've always looked at Lena and Aziz as such amazing creatives, and coming in as an actor initially, just, you know, to be like, I'm gonna say whatever you want me to say, thank you for letting me in. I found, like, at first, you know, I was watching their dynamic, and I like totally agree. You guys are like siblings, like, and kind of studying how they work. You know, I feel like watching writers work who also act is like super fascinating. And me myself, who I want to be, or I am a writer, I should say, instead of I want to be a writer.
Right,
but,
that's right.
Like, yeah, that like there was so much to learn from that. And then, you know, being welcomed into that creative space with Lena and Aziz and Alan, and kind of being like, okay, how are we gonna work this scene? How are we gonna block it? What feels natural to say? I've just never really felt up until that point as empowered as an artist than in this show. And you know, watching the show, and I can't wait for it to come out. I'm just like really proud of being able to say I played like a part in that, outside of the character that I played.
Played a huge part in it.
Thanks, babe.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot of highs and lows that you both kind of go through throughout the episodes, and I imagine that you had to make a lot of emotional adjustments, especially to capture it all exactly the way you wanted it on screen. I just wanted to know, can you share with the audience just an anecdote or a story of one scene that just stood out that you two worked on together?
I mean, every scene is so like, I mean, but you know, I think when Alicia comes over and asks Denise to finally sign the divorce papers is really a special one. That was one we did a few times. Again, it's all in one take, and I really wanted my emotion, a little bit of my desperation, if I can use that word, to want her to stay. And I think that was very vulnerable. It's a very vulnerable space for anyone, I think, to be in, to be losing someone, but to be fighting for them, because free will is a hard thing to turn, you know, and she's ready to go. And I also think it's important for my character to really hear her in a real way and hear, you know, what her frustrations have been, to hear how she's really felt in the relationship, and sometimes, you know, in that scene, you know, we're both doing a lot of talking, but I love the moment when my character gets quiet and finally starts to listen. And that's what I've really learned in terms of really growing as an actor, is that it's the quiet in the performance. And I think, you know, Denise is talking a lot this season, but whenever she's being quiet, I think is when I find her the most, because she's being contemplative, or she's actually hearing someone, or she's listening to herself. And I think that to me is what's been such a joy to play her this season, and just really force myself to be naked. I mean, literally even in the tub, you know, like when I just said, I was like, I don't know. I didn't, you know, it was just like, God, make it for real. Like we were like in that tub, you know, you know, and so we had an intimacy coordinator there, and everything was cool. It was even important for me. Like I didn't have paces. I chose not to have that for myself. And even I think there's a scene where I'm taking my shirt off and I took my bra off or something. And because I didn't want it to be about vanity, I didn't want it to be about me trying to cover up anything. I think as an artist, I always want to be as vulnerable as I can be and as naked as I can be. Even if people don't like it all the time and people get upset with me or whatever, to me, it's a relationship. And there's no relationship where someone's always happy in it. And so just as my relationship with my audience, it should be just like any other relationship. Sometimes you're cool, sometimes you're not. You come back, you make up, you know. And so that's why I wanted to feel. I like that. Yeah.
I love it. I don't know if you can hear that. There's a siren. There's a
no, I can hear it now, but it's all good.
Yeah. I'm in Atlanta. There's a tornado warning, and there's fire going down the street.
Oh no!
Yeah, like
tornado.
Yes,
a tornado.
It's happening. This is real life. Real life. But I do, while we're talking about these moments, like Naomi, like that, I've never seen a journey like Alicia's with that IVF like arc. It was so powerful. So talk to me about preparing for that. I mean, because it was physical and very emotionally, you know, demanding to tell that story. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, mate, it was, I will say it was intense. I think when I first started acting, I came from the mind of like, you know, I just want to shake off the character. At the end of the day, I wanted to be like this kind of work from the outside in, no psychological kind of debt that you have to repay once you're done. And I look back on the show, but on episode 4 in particular, and I'm like, that going through that journey, you know, physically kind of trying to embody that experience is hard. And that was me just pretending. So I cannot even imagine the strain and the difficulty it is to go through that process, let alone as a woman, let alone as a queer woman, let alone as a queer Black woman. So it was intense. And I felt, I said this before, but you know, I felt very adult doing it. I've been saying today, I felt like an adult artist. Like I felt like I was tackling something that could be a part of my future. Do you know what I mean? You know, I've never been through infertility. I don't know even about that for myself. I don't, you know, all of it. For me, the biggest thing was like looking at how because of all the intersections, it's sometimes so hard to know what is blocking you, because you just don't know until you know. And watching Alicia and being Alicia go through that experience of seeing the pitfalls, whether they're through insurance policies or it's that you're just struggling to keep a baby, or whatever it is, it's like, man, life is very adult. That's what I can say. So I learned a lot. I felt very grown up doing it.
Oh, that's awesome. It moved me. I was like, I don't know nothing. I know nothing.
Yeah.
But there was something that it just kind of hit me, especially in that episode and the subsequent episode, and that was the conversations that both of you had with your mothers. And I wanted both of you to speak towards that, because like, you know, I'm listening to Catherine, and let me be like, she was dropping some truths. I was like, Amen.
Listen.
Amen. So I
Mhm.
wanted you to, so Lena, talk to me about crafting that conversation and that scene for you. And then Naomi, if you can talk, because I think that the injection when you're on the phone with your mom, hilarious and so touching.
Thank you. Yeah.
I think I am, and I can speak for Aziz too. We knew we couldn't do this season without, having Denise's mom pop up, and she pops up in such a beautiful way, and Angela, who's become a friend and to me, and another mother figure in my life, for her to come in. And I remember writing that scene, which is so interesting, writing a scene between myself and a mother figure, and what I want my mom to say, what my mom would actually say, and it just felt very right, the tones that we hit. And obviously Angela could do and say anything, but it just felt like a very honest conversation, and also too, what I love about that scene is that I'm reluctant to pick up the phone, because as much as you sometimes need your parent, they're sometimes the last person you want to talk to when you're going through something tough. So I did want to make sure I put that on the page, that my character didn't want to necessarily pick up right away, or she's like trying to jump off the phone. But the truth is what she needs, the most in that moment. And that's why I really love that scene and what it represents. And and also just to show the growth too, it's sort of almost a bookend to the Thanksgiving episode to where she is now. And it's even the evolution of my relationship with my own mother and how it's grown over the years. And so I think to me, it was important to have that there, and never really being able to tell the new story without her mother being included. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like, I do like that. I like that scene a lot. I was able to act with Marianne Jean-Baptiste, who's like an amazing Black British actress. She's incredible. And you know what is so funny? I just want to add this in, like, what I love about the show as well is that we're both Black women and we're both from different parts of the world.
That's
and
right.
I'm just such an advocate for bringing the Black diaspora together to exist.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Together, and not necessarily, like I just think it's really great. And so what I loved about it was like hearing Marianne's accent, and it just be like, oh God, she sound like my auntie. Like, you sound like how do you know what I mean? Because she's from East London, I'm from East London. That was so special. And like, I don't know, it's again, there's something about this show. I remember, Lena, you said at one point, and it was right before we started shooting, you were like, whatever we feel on a day, you bring it to the scene. Like, because there were some days that were really tough for both of us, for all of us. And we would just bring that to the scene. And so for that scene, I was feeling vulnerable anyway. I was tired at that point, I remember. And just hearing like an older Black woman's voice, there's something about just hearing an older Black woman's voice that's so like comforting.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? And just so that to me is like that, and obviously there's this parallel between Alicia trying to be a mother and the contact with her mother. I just, it was very easy for me to be vulnerable and in that moment. And I think that's a testament to the show, is the ease to be vulnerable was, oh my gosh, like cutting butter, just easy.
There was something else that I thought was kind of interesting this season. Is there's a lot of Black facts throughout this season, and I was just like, what? Put this hand up, put this up, Look, I already got the book, Girl, Woman, Other on audiobook. I need to be down. I need to be down. I got to be ready. So, but you talked about like the American Girl dolls, and you talked about Goldie Williams, and even that introduction about Jesse Norman was so insightful. So talk to me about making that investment in Black women's culture for the season.
I mean, it was super important to me, and Aziz understood that, but also welcomed it. I got him on the phone with these two amazing women who do Black market vintage, and because we wanted Alicia to be a person that was super into vintage furniture and art, but obviously it's very specific to Black people and this sort of memorabilia. And also to everything from the art on the walls are all artists that I'm familiar with and that I know and that I'm a collector of. So they also just got pictures of, you know, artists that I like or books that I'm reading or things that are around my home. And then obviously Naomi too, like just sort of saying, what are you reading? Let's put it on the book stand. We just wanted it to all feel very authentic because I'm a person who is surrounded by Black art, who's reading books by Black authors and is always educating myself. But then also too, there are things that are just in my life, like the Addie doll, like anecdote came from me, obviously. And
we were just chatting. Yeah.
You know, and Aziz was like, what? That's cool. That's interesting. So a lot of stuff that's just sort of very natural to me that is sometimes foreign to Aziz, where he may go, what? What's that? Okay, well, but not even question it. Just say, okay, let's leave that in because obviously it's specific to you. So it's going to be specific to someone else. And it was important always, whatever I'm doing, I always want to infuse those things into the work because I love sharing things that I know with people. And so if they do know it, great. If they don't, they can go research it or go find it or go search it or seek it out. And so I think that's why to me it was super important to have all that stuff there and to be included because I think it'll make it so that way audiences get to look. Some things may go over people's heads, other things will go right to hearts and spirits and souls.
It's like
yeah.
It's like little Easter eggs. Like I love that. Like especially the books and stuff. I mean, the Goldie Williams is so funny because I have that picture just in my yard, and Aziz was like, "Oh, take pictures of your flat," and I was just taking pictures, and I have these like a set of pictures of Black women from Victorian times because it's like fascinating to me that like the British culture has kind of like gotten rid of all the Black people that existed in Victorian times. Anyway, and Goldie Williams ended up in the show. And like it's one of my favorite pictures. It's like just over there, right there. So there's parts of us that's in it as well.
Yeah, you know, I Googled it. I was ready. I'm like, I'm gonna be like this much more dope because of these. But the other thing about the culture was the music, and one of the things I thought was really cool about it was, you know, there's some great moments of the two of you dancing, and I wanted to know about the soundtrack. And then who's the better dancer?
Oh Lord.
Lena.
Yes.
That's easy.
No. I have to have a good dancing partner or else I wouldn't have felt comfortable let myself free. No, I mean, the music as I think has always been like a character on Master of None. You know, it's always been very specific and this season, you know, is no different. You know, I had a little bit of a say, but I also really trusted Aziz because Aziz has a great ear for music. If you ever go to his house, music is always playing and it's always interesting. It's always very vintage too. It's very rarely does he know any new artists that are happening. But I think that to me was really great. And also too, even the opera singer, like that kind of stuff was so special and so important to us. And for it to be just, you know, some music that felt timeless. I think that's also super important to us is that we don't ever want the music to date the show in any way. And so I think we were able to do that again this season, and that it's music you can have fun with and you can relate to, but also doesn't get old after 5 years.
Awesome. Well, I have to say thank you for season 3. This was an amazing journey. I think people will take so much away from it and understand the power of Black women, especially same-sex loving Black women.
Man.
There we go. Well, anyway, thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate this season.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Edward.
Oh, bless you, man. It was so nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That was Lena Waithe and Naomi Ackie, stars of season 3 of the award-winning Netflix series Master of None. All episodes of the season are now streaming on Netflix. And check out Lena's other projects too. The Shy can be found on Showtime, and Them is available on Amazon Prime. Oh, and I highly recommend, if you haven't already, check out Naomi's brilliant performance as Hazel in Steve McQueen's award-winning series Small Axe on Amazon Prime. And that's our show. Thanks again to the amazing Lena Waithe and Naomi Ackie for talking with us, and the people at Netflix for making it happen. Are you subscribed to the After Roundtables? Well, you should be. you'll find a ton of great interviews and discussions from AFCA members with some of Hollywood's most notable talents. Visit the AFCA channel on YouTube and subscribe to check out the playlist and see all the amazing content there. So until next time, keep your head up and happy Pride.